In this lesson, we're going to talk about relative positioning with CSS. Relative positioning is not very good at laying out blocks of text. As you can see here, I've attempted to use relative positioning to create our 3-column document, and it failed miserably. What relative positioning does is it positions something on the screen in a different place than where it actually belongs in the document, and yet it lays out the rest of the document as if that object were right where it belonged and had not been positioned. Let me give you an example here in text. I'm going to take this word BWHOIS and I'm going to move it off to the side, and you'll see that the rest of the document wraps around as if it were right where it belonged. Here we have our document. You'll notice we have the positioning in the CSS in the style element, just like in the last one, and we have our 3 blocks of text, first, second, and third, and that's what we were seeing on the screen. So I'm going to take this BWHOIS word and I'm going to put a span around it. So that I can apply some style just to that inline piece of text. And I'm going to say position, relative, and minus 100 pixels. And that's the left property. Go ahead and put in a semicolon. It's not required, but I like to put it. And save. And now we'll look at it in the document. And you see that the word BWHOIS now has moved all the way out of the content box. And yet the rest of this document is wrapping around it as if it was right where it belonged. That hasn't moved at all. All that's moved is those words. So that's what relative positioning does. It moves the place where it displays while leaving the effective place in the document for other things to wrap around it and interact with it as if it was right where it belonged. The most common use of relative positioning is actually shown up here in our style sheet, and it's to create an outer container that qualifies as a containing block for the purpose of positioning other elements. And so, as we saw in the absolute positioning document, and I'll bring that up on the screen here so we can see that, in our absolute positioning example, we put position relative in this outer containing block, and that made it qualify as a reference point for the absolute positioning. You'll notice there's no top or left property here, so the positioning isn't actually moved. It doesn't actually move that containing box out of the place where it normally would display. Instead, it just exists to make this outer containing block qualify as a containing block for the absolute positioning. So this is the most common use of relative positioning in CSS. It's not very commonly used for actually moving things around on the screen.